Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
And that's that. We can stand up and fight and ride all day through the night. We can make this change right and see our hopes and our dreams come to fruition. It's time to unite as one, calling out to our founding fathers. This is our mission to make you proud.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Humanity Awakened Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Bolin, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Phil McNamara.
Hello, everybody. How you doing tonight?
And on this show, we wanted to talk about the subject of conspiracy theory, conspiracy fact. And right now, it seems like, there's so much information coming at us from left and right, and trying to decipher in this grand cosmic chess game what's real, what's disinformation, what conspiracy should be taken seriously and which ones shouldn't, and trying to navigate that world can be tough at times. And we thought, we wanted to have it's time for a discussion on a lot of these things that get talked about and thrown around, and really getting to the bottom of what's real and what should really be taken seriously, and the difference between having faith in some of these things and being in the groundwork of reality and some of these other things as well.
Yeah, exactly. This is something, again, that is very near and dear to my heart because, honestly, there is so much information being pummeled at you on a daily basis. We get a lot of stuff. I'm always constantly reading things. I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm reading articles. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on all the different websites reading all of this stuff on a daily basis. And I can tell you that your brain can sometimes feel like it's going to melt because it's so overwhelming, the amount of things out there that when you read them, you're like, that could be true. I don't know. And then you read the article and you're like, oh, this is bunk. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that and I'm going to start with this. So one of the arguments that I hear about all the time is whether it's credible journalism or whether it's a bunk site. It doesn't take much to start a website. It doesn't take much to start a YouTube page or start, a blog. And there are a lot of people out there that are legitimately trying to find out what's going on. And there's a lot of people out there that are legitimately trying to deceive you, to make money. And that's the problem, is that when you're starting to get into some of this stuff, there's a lot of stuff that you need to weed through before you get to the good stuff. And so, in this episode, we're hoping that we can sort of guide you through some of that stuff that we found from trial and error of doing this for years, and and maybe save you a
A lot of time and
lot of
heartache.
time.
I mean, there's times where I had to go through feeling like, well, basically at the bottom line, there's a lot of disinformation right now.
Oh my
And there's a
God.
lot of people towing the party line, and then some people are towing of the new age conspiracy, truth movement. But sometimes that party line can also be disinfo, and so then it turns into misinformation. And then we have people writing blogs and YouTubers creating videos about stuff that might not actually really be happening. And like we know from what Corey Good has talked about, that there are these paid internet trolls that are literally going on. They'll have 12 computer screens in front of them with fake aliases and fake different accounts, where their job is to all day go online, go on forums, go on comment sections of the truth movement, people involved in that, and basically debunk, try to discredit them, start fights with other users online. And we know that's happening now, and it's just one more obstacle in the way of us really experiencing the truth head on.
And honestly, the thing that's good about that is that the fact that somebody's going to all that effort means that we're making progress. Because if we weren't, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't feel necessary to go on and create a whole internet troll group of people to go on there and do that. And I've met some of these people. I've seen some of them. I've talked to them. I've engaged with them on different websites. I can kind of tell if it's a peaceful, loving Facebook page where they're all trying to just get the information, and then there's some guy on there that's just always negative and starting fights and starting trouble with everybody and trying to break it up, or saying that the administrators of the site are wrong, or they're just they're just adding whoever or adding whatever content they want. And I always become real skeptical of people like that, because that tells me that they're not keeping in context with what the actual idea of the web page or the Facebook page or whatever it is.
Yeah, and most people have better things to do than to try and debunk people's work all day.
Right.
That should be a red flag off the bat. I mean, there's one thing in being like, it's one thing to say, hey man, I see your message and I see what you're trying to say. I might not agree with it 100%, but maybe I'll research more and let you know what I think. But there's not, in real life, I mean, there's not people who will go on if you just don't believe in this stuff, cool, you don't believe in it. Like you haven't done your homework, so you don't believe in it, and that's fine. To us, this is like a reality. It's not even a belief thing. It's just like, this is what we know to be true. And people who don't believe in that are going to go research their other things, like mainstream science, stuff like that, whatever they're into. They're not going to sit around on truth, new age sites, conspiracy sites all day and try to debunk people. I mean, I just don't understand how people in real life have time for that unless you're a paid government troll. And I'm not saying nobody does do that, but the numbers have to be a lot smaller than actual paid government trolls. And let's be real, this isn't some kind of like new phenomenon that's come around in the last like 10 years. The UFO community has been infiltrated pretty much from the beginning with a CIA COINTELPRO.
Yeah.
Since at least the 70s, possibly even earlier. Probably in the 50s as well.
Oh, absolutely. And the real reason is because there's a lot of credibility to a lot of the stuff that's going on, and some of the conspiracies that, and I really hate that term, but that's the term that we're using, so let's just go with it. There's clearly something going on in our society that's wrong. If you're listening to this show, it's a good bet that you probably feel the same way. And and it's gotten to a point where you're trying to seek out this, the truth. And the truth, when it comes right down to it, I'm going to say this straight up, the truth comes from discernment. You really have to look at this information and look at it and say, does this ring true with you?
And for me, sorry about that.
Okay.
For me on that level, like what I do is I always go inward. I said, does this feel right in my heart? Does this feel right in my intuition?
Yes.
And I've said that on the show many times before, but sometimes that's the only gauge you can have. But then also, usually I will not talk about something on a public level, like on this podcast or in other avenues, or even to my friends, unless I've done my homework enough to the point where it's resurfaced multiple times in different ways, sometimes in even ways where it's almost like like a god shot in the ways that some of these things have lined up for me, where I'm like, some type of higher power is trying to guide me and tell me that this piece of information is true, because it just keeps coming up, and it's important for either my life to understand that or to share that with other people.
Exactly. And, let's just get into some of the different conspiracies and sort of just figure out where we are with them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just start with the big one, chemtrails. Okay, let's get this straight. Chemtrails are happening. It's not a conspiracy. It is an actual fact now. It's been reported on mainstream media. It's been reported all over the world now. This is happening. So for those of you who are out there that are like, oh, well, they should be wearing tinfoil hats and it's all craziness. No, this is actually happening. They are spraying us. They are spraying the entire planet. They are trying to geoengineer the planet. For whatever reason they're doing it, we still don't know.
And here's the clarification too. If you type in chemtrail on Google or YouTube, you will get 100 conspiracy sites talking about chemtrails. If you type in geoengineering, you will get some legitimate scientific documents of the actual, people proposing why they want to do this and how it's going to change the world. Because the advocates for this, think that it's going to change the world for the better. And right now, we see the opposite really happening. And if you need more proof of that, you can go back and listen to our episode with Michael Murphy, where he completely lays out geoengineering from A to Z, the health negative effects, and how it's negatively affecting our planet and contributing to global warming as well.
Yes. So that's one of the ones that I wanted to get out of the way real quick.
And they are not contrails.
They're not contrails.
Contrails dissipate after about 3 or 4 seconds, and it's the result of ice nucleation. These chemtrails are actual aerosols sprayed in the sky, and they don't last 3 to 4 seconds. They last all friggin' day.
Right.
They blanket the entire sky. I mean, that is a huge difference. Like a first grader could tell you the difference between that. Let's move on from that. Stop debating those two different things.
Okay. So let's see, what else can we go into here? Okay, flat Earth. Recently, I've come across a bunch of people who actually believe that the Earth is flat. We settled this argument 500 years ago. Okay? And I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me that it is. You're not going to convince anybody who has higher than a second grade education that it is. We have pictures. We know what the planet looks like.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate on this, not because I'm a flat earther, and I believe in that, because I don't swing either way on this topic. I've seen enough information in this conspiracy truth movement to question everything I know to be true that I've ever learned in my entire life. And if I'm going to follow that path and not be afraid of what the truth actually is rather than what my rational mind says, I have to be open to any type of possibility. And that doesn't mean I'm saying the Earth is or isn't flat. I'm very much inclined to believe that, it's not flat. However, with everything I've learned, that pretty much everything I've learned in school that I found out has either been twisted, fabricated in some specific way so that I don't know the whole real truth. Maybe it's bigger than what we think. Who knows? I mean, if you think about it, we're taking not a straight answer, NASA's word, NASA's pictures, on full 100% faith that those pictures aren't like made in a lab. I don't know if they are, and like sometimes I have to go back and question myself. I mean, like half of this community is like never trust NASA, but then they're like, oh no, we know the Earth isn't flat because we have pictures that NASA's given us, or like these other space agencies around the world. I've never met these people, the space agencies. I don't know how honorable their word is or what isn't or not. So I think you guys kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. What do you think about that, Phil?
Well,
just kind of playing the devil's advocate with that. I mean, I think there's enough evidence to show that the Earth is not flat. However, given what I just said, how do you kind of respond to that?
I'm going to stand by what I said, because I understand what you're saying, but yeah. There are just certain things that that have been debunked a long time ago, and I think that the fact that this stuff is being brought up again, is just it's not healthy.
I'm surprised that it is being brought up again.
Yeah.
And that's actually another reason why I'm just kind of like, I'm not going to settle on one or either answer. I'm going to wait and see how this plays out. You know what I mean? Because as far as I know, unless we get full disclosure, we're really going to know the full grand scheme of how this is all really working anyway.
True. So we're going to leave that one open for discussion, but I'm still sticking by what I said. But, okay.
But I'm glad we talked about that because it's been coming back up.
You want to throw one out and let's see what common conspiracy theory or conspiracy fact.
How about this? Regardless of who did 9/11, I think it's just important to talk about how so much focus is put on who orchestrated 9/11 rather than what became of it as a result, like how our nation has changed, the totalitarian movement into the U.S. into almost like the Fourth Reich kind of status. I was talking about this with a buddy the other night about how it's very interesting the time we live in, because I remember in 2011, like it really seemed like things were ramping up. I mean, the Patriot Act went down after 9/11, and then all of a sudden we have National Defense Authorization Act, and that's been re-signed into law every year since 2011, and that basically bypasses Posse Comitatus Act and right to due process. You can be tried in a military secret. I don't know if it's a military court, but it's definitely like a secret court, not like our regular court system. And this is like a law that is in law right now, and that's kind of scary. And I'm surprised. It seemed like everything was kind of ramping up then, and then it just kind of stopped. Like 9/11 definitely opened the door for more totalitarian moves on the chessboard, and this is one of the reasons why I think that there is an Earth Alliance.
Oh, there's
no
doubt.
That's why I wanted to ask you, kind of bring that up with you and see what your opinion was with that, because we should be seeing more totalitarian moves, and we're kind of not. And that's what's really interesting about this, and what makes me think that there is some faction of like an Earth Alliance that Corey Goode has been talking about, fighting against the Illuminati.
I agree, and honestly, to tell you the truth, I really believe that there is an Earth Alliance.
If there wasn't, we would be like in the New World Order, like
we would have been a long time ago.
I think,
because not only did the 9/11, humanity, crime against humanity, open the door to never-ending war against sovereign nations that did nothing to us. It, on a grander scale, on a more of a global scale, it sort of set up this catch me if you can kind of attitude. And so it looks like the alliance has gone into full tilt mode now, and they're actually making giant moves to not only stop the Tsarian mafia, the Bush crime family, the Rothschild banking dynasty, all of these people that you've heard about, the Rockefellers, all these people, from
the Western factions
of the cabal, from really ushering in a totalitarian world government, world religion, world currency. All of that has kind of been put on. There's been a kibosh put on that, and I think that at this point, it's been all done behind the scenes. And the way that I always equate this to, for those of you that are skeptical of all of this, if you've ever watched the Star Wars movies, you'll know that there was the Empire, and then there was the Rebels, and there was only a small group of rebels who defeated the Empire. But most of the people in the Star Wars galaxy didn't know that there was a rebel force at all, or maybe had heard about it as a conspiracy, like we always hear about everything.
Never thought about that.
So,
well, they would be the Secret Space Program Alliance,
right?
Yeah.
And so here they come along, and so there's a group of people out there, however many hundreds or thousands or millions, who knows, that are out there that are fighting on behalf of freeing our planet from this totalitarian nightmare Orwellian thing that's happening as a result. And the result of that was, and 9/11 was the catalyst for that. It was a false flag crime that was committed against the American people and subsequently against sovereign nations who had nothing to do with 9/11. And we have been drone bombing kids and doing horrendous acts in the name of America, which is not what the people want. But we're all medicated, so we can't go and fight them because they're spraying stuff on us
And have drugs in the water.
and putting drugs in the water. And who knows what the drugs in the water and the spray stuff, let's say it combines and creates something else that we don't know about.
Well, there's the recent revelation about the NASA employee on tape recording talking about how they're the ones doing the spraying, the chemtrail spraying, the aerosol spraying, and there's lithium inside of it, and which is a bipolar medication.
Yeah.
And it's being sprayed all over major cities, and it's just they say that they're like, oh, but it doesn't hurt the environment, and it's like, what about us?
Yeah, I care about the environment, but
it's supposed to mess with like the jet stream to try and create like to understand more about the weather and stuff. Somehow the lithium helps with that, but it's like, geez, man, I didn't sign up for that.
No, and neither did I. And I don't like things falling on me on a daily basis. That's not that people are spraying in the sky. I don't trust the government with anything. I don't trust them with my food. I don't trust them with my money. I don't trust them with what they're spraying in the sky. And and it's not because, I want anybody to get harmed in any way, but I honestly believe that it's time to make some big changes. We really have to look at this. The reason why conspiracy theorists exist is simply because there are people out there that simply don't believe what they're being told on television. TV can be manipulated in many, many different ways, and events that we thought were real are not real or were partially real. One of the other big conspiracy theories that's out there that I'm tired of hearing about, but the more that I hear about it, the more that I've thought about it. You always hear people say, "Oh, the moon landing was faked," and that Stanley Kubrick did it in a studio somewhere. And this is my take on that. Okay, so I believe that we did go to the moon. I believe that it happened exactly the way we were told it happened, although the results of it were completely different. When they got there, they found out that not only was the moon not necessarily a real planet, that it was actually an artificial structure, but it was inhabited, that there was somebody there, there was something there before us. And so they had to come up with some sort of an excuse to why, because I can't believe that we spent $3 or $4 billion back in the 60s to shoot people up into space, to land them on the moon so they could hit golf balls. That seems a little like a waste of time to me.
Let me chime in on this.
Yeah.
So you and I have talked about this, and I think we have the same opinion. We did go to the moon. However, there was a fabrication made that was shown to the public.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's possible that Kubrick was involved in that as well. So here's where we're at with that. But we have some very interesting research that Mike Barra and Richard Hoagland did in understanding the Masonic rituals and the date that was chosen when going to the moon, and the Masonic ritual that I guess they did touching down on the moon. And if you want to learn more about that, I'm sure you guys can find more about that online. It's very detailed. It's very, very interesting too. I encourage everyone to look more into that. But so there's tantalizing evidence to suggest that both things did happen. However, then on the total other side of things, we have Corey Good talking about how the Nazis continued to develop their Bellcraft and actually developed it enough to the point where they were able to fly to the moon in the 40s. So, regardless of if we went to the moon in the 60s, if Corey's statement is true, which it seems like, I mean, this Bell story, the Wunderwaffen, that the Nazis were creating is something that I've been following for so long, and there's such a paper trail of this, and there's so much evidence, not to just suggest it, but that just says that they were creating some type of like anti-gravity craft. We could spend like hours talking about this. There is stuff out there. There is a paper trail on this. Like that is going on. That happened, and they were going to use this weapon to win the war. And it appears that it got completed possibly either close to the end of the war or after the war. And they possibly could have completed it and decided not to even try to win the war, so everyone would think the Germans or the Nazis were defeated, but really just, they continued on in a more esoteric way. And it's better, for an empire to be created covertly rather than overtly. And then this is really interesting too about how you're bringing up Star Wars. And I remember you and I were having this conversation about. I was telling you about how I was reading about how George Lucas originally wanted the Empire, their costume wardrobe, to look like subconsciously to look like they were Nazis, because subconsciously humanity views the Nazis as one of the most evil villains in history to date. So automatically people would just associate them and see them as the bad guys. But then when you bring it into the current realm of things and what Corey's talking about, it seems like we actually have had Nazis in space. And then you start thinking, was George Lucas read in on some of this stuff? And then just like you were saying, a 9/11 event, a false flag event, which allowed more people to rally up to become rebels, and that could have been the explosion of Alderaan, because that was a big faction where the rebels were, and with the Death Star exploding that and Star Wars: A New Hope. And then we have the latest Star Wars where they basically did the same exact story.
It's the same story.
But it seems to me like more planets would want to get involved with the way that they destroyed. I believe was it Coruscant? I wasn't entirely clear on what they destroyed.
I can't remember what the names of the planets were.
But they destroyed a planet, and it seemed like people were way more, like they showed how it affected people on multiple different places.
Right.
And it allowed them that was their rally together point.
Right.
And I could see that playing in a factor in the future films, actually. Whereas, in A New Hope, they only showed Princess Leia really reacting to it, and then Obi-Wan and Luke, because Obi-Wan felt the disturbance in the Force. Getting a little off topic here. But it was very just interesting how you brought all that up, because I never really looked at it that way. But it makes you think, was George Lucas told about this stuff? Or is George Lucas just very psychically in tune with the ether, and putting this into a story where he wasn't even read in, but just like psychically in tune with stuff that might have actually gone on?
Right. I mean, any one of those things is true, or is possible. And also, one of the things that I've found out over 25 plus years of researching this stuff, I've had to come to a place in my own heart where I have to look at something like, if I go on YouTube and I'm watching.
Let's just talk about YouTube right now.
Okay. Yeah. So let's just get this out of the way. There's something out there, if you haven't ever heard of it, it's called fear porn. Fear porn is a video, an article, a YouTube page, whatever it is, that invokes a negative reaction. It's like it's a doom and gloom. The big things that they're in on this is Nibiru. Oh my God. Okay, let's just get this straight.
Nibiru, Nephilim, the next asteroid that's going to come and destroy us.
This thing is coming. It's going to hit us. It's going to smash us. We're going to be sent back in time. Whatever crazy bullshit. I'm sorry. I just have to say it. It's just not true. It's not coming. It's not here.
There's a new date every year that's put on when Nibiru is going to come. There's a new date when the rapture is going to come every year. In the New Age community, it's like, come on, guys, like, get a grip. Like,
it's not coming.
It's ridiculous. I've been hearing this on YouTube since I started getting into this stuff in 2009. And it's just like, I can't go another year trying to figure out when all that's maybe gonna happen, or if
It's
it's not.
insane.
It is. That's where it gets to the level of like insanity, and we're saving you a lot of heartache right now by
so
not
just
clicking on those videos.
Don't click on the videos.
No.
Don't, especially if it has a title like, if it's all in caps, stop.
Yes, and also too, like, something's happening, something strange this year. It's
Oh,
martial law is going down this year.
Yeah.
If I see another video like that, I'm gonna throw up. But so if you see a video like that, just do not click it ever.
Please.
I know that stuff's not real because I've clicked on it in the past and nothing happens after the year or after the date they say.
Right.
And then I'll watch it now. Like, I watched one a couple months ago just to like see what kind of reaction I had, and I was in so much fear and anxiety even though I knew it wasn't real. So that's how much
it's done to elicit a response to you. And and this is the thing too. If there's certain music tracks that they put on all these videos. They do it a lot on Nibiru videos. They do it a lot on ET videos or UFO videos.
I
don't
pull
know
one
what
random up right now on my phone and just see if it pops up.
Okay. if you hear this music start, turn the video
Run
off.
for the hills. Watch,
Because
I'll just put in Nibiru 2012.
Here we go.
Okay, here we do Nibiru 2016 update this month. I'll just go to the latest
now
one.
it's coming into the,
Here we go.
So it's been
and
coming.
it's all urgent update. Here we
There
go.
it is. Here's the urgent. And
Earth wobble, pole shift, inbound affecting Earth. All this stuff. This stuff. Don't click on it.
yeah, you're going to waste 20 minutes of your time.
And be in fear for another year.
So, are we listening to it?
Oh no, it's still loading.
Okay. So, yeah, anything that's got all caps that elicits a fear response, don't listen to it. It's insane. And it's been going on. I mean, this is a 2016 update. Here we go. They put a
Something like
slick
that.
music like that on it. It's horse shit. It's just is. It's like, I've watched thousands of hours of this, guys. I've done the research for you. Don't do it. If it's in a YouTube video or oh God, what's the other thing they always find? Bigfoot or
Look at this one. Okay, here's
here we
the
go.
fourth down. It says Nibiru will be a life-ending event in 2017, not 2016.
Not 2015.
Too bad I've been
not
hearing about this since
2014,
2009.
2013.
And I'm sure it's been happening way before that too.
I heard
I'm
about
not
it
saying-
in
okay.
1999.
Okay, there you go. That far
It's
back.
going on back.
So let's be real though. We're not trying to debunk, quote unquote, or say Nibiru's not real. I say go and do research on that, but not on YouTube. Not with the all cap videos. Like, go from some trusted researchers where you see their actual face. Like, people who look like scholarly.
Another thing, if the video, and the other thing that the videos do, and a lot of them do this, they have the filtered electronic voice.
Yeah.
We're not filtering our voice here. This is what we sound like. So, we're not trying to bring any doom and gloom into this.
Well, here's something that some people in the audience might not know. And we're not the only people who talk about this stuff. Like, when I first learned about this stuff in 2009, like after I had my UFO experiences, I literally thought I was the first person to see a UFO that wasn't like crazy. And then once I started researching this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta like tell the president or something. I gotta get in touch with the naval intelligence or someone. And then you start seeing that this whole thing is a conspiracy.
Right.
And but the reality is there's a conspiracy. I mean, there's a truth movement out there. There's researchers that have dedicated their lives to this stuff and been talking about this stuff publicly way longer than we have.
Right.
There's Graham Hancock, there's David Wilcock, there's David Icke. If you guys want to get a good handle on what this stuff really is, I mean, go to the Conscious Life Expo one year, go to Contact in the Desert. I'm sure there's other, expos just like that near you if you live in the US. Sometimes people go to Europe. There's one in Mount Shasta. Look it up online. If you go to the Conscious Life Expo website, you'll see a list of all these world-renowned speakers that for the most part, I mean, maybe with the exception of like 2 or 3, you can literally, trust their body of work. And they have scientific research to back up a lot of what they're saying too, which is great.
Right. And on the spiritual side, there's people like Drunvalo Melchizedek. There's Greg Braden. I'm a big proponent of the Spirit Science series with Jordan Pierce. If you get a chance to listen to those and watch those little cartoons that he does, they're fantastic. They're wonderful primers for all of this. I really suggest you look into them and be discerning. If it sounds like the thing is coming right at you, then here it comes, and you got to run for the hills. It's not happening because it would have already happened. If there's a Jupiter-sized planet rushing through our solar system, it's going to affect some stuff. We're going to see it. It's not going to be some little thing. It's going to be like we're going to have massive Earth changes.
There's some people who have claimed to have pictures of Nibiru, and for people who don't understand what that is, it possibly is an extra planet in our solar system that is how much bigger than the Earth? Like the size of Jupiter?
The size of Jupiter.
That's what researchers are saying, and supposedly it's talked about in the ancient Sumerian scriptures. And there's a lot of people who've done a lot of research on it and have dedicated their lives to it. We're not trying to discount Nibiru entirely by having that whole YouTube rant. We're talking mainly about the ridiculousness that YouTube has become as a resource for information today, because that's where so much disinformation and misinformation lives. And we're trying to be a stand to sort through the bullshit.
Yeah, and again, a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into these videos.
They really do. I'm actually, some of them, it's like really impressive,
stunning.
like
They're
how much time is
stunning.
put into them.
They're better than most Hollywood movies, actually. But there's that. There's a lot of articles that you see on different websites. Fear porn to me was a really big intro for me into this field.
Same here. And
yeah.
to be honest, like I wouldn't be into it the same way I was if I didn't have those humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Like we kind of need to go through the pain and the chaos to come out the other side stronger, I think. Yeah. But if we can shorten that time for you guys, I think
I'm down.
We're
for that.
doing something right. Yeah.
Because it's
spins some people out, and then if you're getting a bunch of misinformation, you're trying to wake people up with misinformation. You're discrediting everything.
And then when you do find something that's actually true, then you go to your friends and you say, I found this, and they're like, yeah, but everything you said so far is not true, so why am I going to believe that? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different conspiracies out there that are largely debunkable, and they have a really gray area. We're trying to find out now, what's really going on now is that we're really starting to, especially in the archaeology field, we're rewriting history.
Let's talk about those the skulls that were found.
Oh, okay. I don't have it with me, but
here.
they're called the Paracas skulls. They are skulls
getting
that
the
were
article
found
right now.
Yeah, let's see if I can find it.
Did you save it?
I did, but it's actually on my page. So let me see if I can find it here. Talk to the lovely people about something while I'm trying to find this.
Okay.
Let's see. This article.
Here's another thing too. It's like Anunnaki. That's another term that's thrown around in YouTube that just comes up constantly. I'm of the opinion that there actually was an Anunnaki. There's just a lot of evidence that suggests it in the Sumerian scripture side, regardless of how truthful Zechariah Sitchin's account is or not. We see in the hieroglyphics and the all the stuff going on there in Sumer that there's some beings there that do not look human-like. Let's just put it that way. And also from insider testimony too, that they corroborate. They always corroborate. Yes, there was an Anunnaki. Yes, they're still around. They don't have the same power that they once had in the ancient past, but yes, they are around and they're a real thing. It's always like consistent, just like that.
It is.
And that's what blows me away about that. And when we talk about insiders or whistleblowers, I mean, there's specific people who interview and find and seek out these people, and one of them is Carrie Cassidy. That's her entire mission with Project Camelot. I highly encourage you guys as a reliable source on YouTube, actually, to seek out Carrie's work with Project Camelot, where she's just interviewing whistleblowers from, secret government programs like secret space program. Some people are like insiders into the like occult, satanic ritual abuse, or like Illuminati going-ons, like little factions within that. It's really mind-blowing, and a lot of that stuff has really woken me up, and it's the bee's knees if you really want to get deep in the truth. And then you can discern on your own whether or not you believe these whistleblower testimonies.
Okay, so I found the article on the Paracas skulls, and it's on a site called mysteriousearth.net. And the Paracas skulls are some skulls that were found in Peru. And when they did a DNA test on them, they have elongated skulls. And when they did the DNA test on them, it turns out that they were not human. And that this is, they have articles on this, and so this is a real thing here. The desert peninsula of Paracas is located in Peru. And they just don't know what these are. And what my suggestion is that, and in the distant past, the ancient aliens theory suggests that there were ancient aliens or aliens in the distant past that came to Earth to help us develop or technology and from the humble beginnings of human beings to what we are today. But I suggest that I take it one step further, that there were maybe several races of beings that actually inhabited the planet. We were not the only ones here. There may have been 2 or 3 different ones. And so...
And the popular theory is that they left back to their home planet. When will they return? Who says they ever left? I mean, we from what Corey's been saying, we have inner Earth beings.
Yeah.
As well, and just to be clear, the skull is not like a crystal skull.
It's not. It's a regular, something that's
actual brand new
skull
that was found. Correct?
Yeah, they were found, and I'm trying to open the page. It's challenging for some reason. Oh, here we go. So,
and it looks just like a gray skull in some.
Yeah, it looks like a gray, but they're
more like a Roswell
different.
Gray kind of.
Yeah, and it's a barren landscape of Paracas, Peru, and the archaeologist's name was Julio Telo, and he discovered these in 1928.
Wait, we're just hearing about it now.
Yeah, and so
let's be clear. A lot of skeptics will say, "Why don't we have more of this in the Smithsonian?" Well, it turns out
this way.
let's talk about that for a second.
Okay, so.
There's a big reason why.
The Smithsonian Institution, which we all know and love and everybody knows about it, apparently has done some shady stuff.
Shady.
One of the shady things they did is around the world they've discovered skeletons of giant human beings. And we're talking giants of the up to 36 feet tall. Every single society in our planet has giant stories. There's giants in their past. They have, there's a special, like in Africa, there's one called Abiyoyo. A song was written about it. You can type in the word Abiyoyo, and it's a Pete Seeger song, and he talks about it. It's an ancient African myth. Every culture on Earth has these stories. Apparently, they've gone around the world, and in certain parts of the world, they've found giant skeletons. There are pictures of them on YouTube. On the internet, everybody says they're photoshopped. I don't believe that they are. I believe that they actually are real. I do believe that the Smithsonian took possession of many of these and then destroyed them. And
there's actual newspaper clippings in the New York Times, in the LA Times, from the 1900s, and I've actually seen them, where they are literally talking about giant skeletons that are found in Catalina, giant skeletons found in all different parts of the U.S. And then where are they?
Right.
And so we have a giant cover up, pun intended,
Right.
of probably many more things than just things like giant skeletons going on. And there also is some kind of linking with the Smithsonian and Freemasonry. There's something else there too to look into. There's clearly an agenda for us not to know about our ancient past and our ancient history, and that's a big problem. And I think if a lot of these things weren't covered up, we'd get more in touch with well, let's be real. It just doesn't go with the nihilistic New World Order Luciferian agenda. Like, we have to have this selfish society. And like, if we understand like the ancient secrets, they're probably as simple as like go inward, like work on yourself so that you can help others more. Like these kind of simple things, so that we can reach higher levels of enlightenment. And our society doesn't promote those kind of things today, and there's a big problem with that. And I think that's part of the responsibility that lies upon us as humanity of why we're in the mess we are today. That's something that we have to at least hold ourselves accountable for, and stop blaming politicians for one day and take a look at that.
Absolutely. And and even with all of these different conspiracy theories, look into them. Don't just take and I'm guilty of this too. I've been known to click share on Facebook for an article that I like, and it comes back and bites me. It's like, oh, this is a bunk site. Oh, click at the bottom on every site that you see on Facebook that you're gonna click on. There's usually the name of whoever published the article. Look on that, click on that, and click on the site and look at the site and see what else is coming out of that site. If it looks like all a bunch of hooey, don't send that and share that. We're trying to get people to actually put information out there that's as close to real as we can get, as close to honest as we can get, so that people actually will look at this and go, oh my God, that's coming from a credible source. If you don't know whether it's a credible source, try to find 2 or 3 instances of what that article is talking about. If there's more than 3 instances about it, it's a fair bet that there's probably some evidence around it, and see if the evidence correlates.
That's really important. Really important. My magical number is 3.
Yeah.
To see it 3 times, I'll go with it, and I usually see it come up at least another 2 throughout the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And there's always, don't be afraid when you're researching some of these things to have your what do I call it? The maybe bucket, or like the maybe pile.
Yeah.
Of this is kind of wild, but I'm gonna put it in the maybe pile and revisit it. And if this sounds really wild for me, for my rational mind, I'm a Harvard graduate or whatever you got to tell yourself, you know what I mean? Like, put it in the maybe pile. I can't tell you how many times I've heard things in that maybe pile a year or 2 or 3 years down the line that I'm like, wow, I did not expect to hear that again, and it's come back up, and then boom, all of a sudden it comes back up a couple more times. I'm like, I'm really glad I didn't discount that, because I would have robbed myself of the experience of not being open to hearing that set of information again the same way.
Right. And
that's had to happen to you too,
it happens to me all the time. I've got a huge maybe bucket, and I'm not a skeptic, but I am. I have been able to use my discernment on a lot of things and decide, you know what, I'm not going to share that. I'm going to hang on to that and see if it actually happens. There's a lot of stuff that I'm looking for right now. I'm looking for some specific events to happen. If they don't happen, I'm just going to go on with my life, And
that's something too to talk to make sure people understand. We're not just talking about everything we know. There's a bunch of stuff that Phil and I probably aren't talking about that we have a feeling that's going on, but we're not just going to blabber our mouths off on it on the podcast right now, because of the fact that we want to verify if it's disinformation or misinformation first.
Right.
And that's really important, because we're going to be doing more of an injustice by talking about it than, ooh, it's new, it's tasty, it's, a new set of conspiracy.
Right.
Awesome, we have to tell everyone. Ah.
Right.
And like I take everything with a grain of salt until I hear it corroborated multiple times again.
Right, and I do too. And I think it's really important if you're doing this work or you're getting into this field that you stay with the credible people. And if you're not sure whether they're credible, you feel free to message us on Facebook or email us or tweet to us, and we'll try
Get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Let's
Absolutely.
get into brick.
Okay.
I feel like this is really important to talk about.
All right.
Just for a little bit, because I think this plays into the bigger geopolitical landscape of what's really going on. And BRIC is the acronym for the Association of 5 Major Emerging National Economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And this is really important because I really see the stage being set for partial disclosure based off of what the BRICS nations are doing and what America's doing. And we see this like battle kind of between US and Russia. And what it seems to appear is that Putin seems to be more like pro world, he's not about the Illuminati agenda, He seems to be doing things that make more sense for the world rather than what the US seems to even be doing.
Yeah, it seems to be that's the truth, and
like they're a part of the Earth Alliance, basically.
Right, and here's what I believe, and this is just this. I'm gonna give you this one. So I believe that there was a few days, about maybe a year or so ago, that Putin went missing for almost a week, I believe it was, in Russia. Everybody was panicking in Russia, but they didn't announce it anywhere. I believe that he was taken to be shown what was going on. I think he was taken into space. I think he was shown some of the bases that we have around the solar system, some of the things some of the technology that exists, and I think he was brought back to Earth. And I think he was a changed man when he did that. And ever since that happened, he's sort of been on the forefront of let's fix this. He's depegged himself away from any kind of Illuminati influence. He has come out against the U.S. policies on a lot of things, which are actually things that I am against as well. And he started the formation, of this BRICS nation, of this BRICS alliance. There's also the AIIB, which is the Asian Investment in Infrastructure Bank. They're also part of They're also a separate banking group that's depegging itself from the dollar. The U.S. dollar is actually being devalued to the point where it will be a non-currency very soon. It will not be the reserve currency in the world. It's clearly that's what's happening. I think there's more behind that even. I think we may even be looking at a possible financial meltdown in the next year or two, which will actually usher in disclosure. And that's
and
that's
as much
really
as that,
important.
we don't know what it's like to live in a society without cash the way that we have it.
Right.
So it just implements automatic fear every time, even when I hear it. But I do know at the end of the day that we need that to have the better, more positive change in the world that we want, because we need it to go down so that we're not under this Babylonian money magic system anymore.
Yes.
It's
a slave system. It's been created.
We're in the illusion that we need that to be normal or to live and function the way we have been, and it's all programming.
Right. And I think it's very important that we start to look at that. We, as the people of the planet Earth, are responsible for taking the necessary steps to change our own destiny. We are not, I will say this all the time, and you're going to hear it on many of the podcasts that we do, Superman ain't coming. We are it. We have to do this ourselves. And if we don't, we're going to be faced with a world that we really don't want and won't know how to get out of.
Well said, Phil.
Yep.
And I think with that, we're going to wrap this episode up. I want to thank you guys for listening. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a comment if you like this episode. And yeah, we will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.